Yeah, I think today, hey everybody, today it's going to be a little bit lighter crowd. We were only sharing this kind of more internally because this is about selling, and we'll certainly talk about audio control products, how to use them to sell better. But we really wanted to have an opportunity to reach out and spend some time with you guys about the benefits of being a good salesperson and what it takes to be a decent salesperson. And Matthew is has the whole outline and stuff that I haven't reviewed. I'm sure it's going to be good conversation. We wanted to try to get everybody out there with us to be a little bit more engaged, and how to position audio control into your selling strategies. Whatever it takes for us to all find continued success. We've all had tons of success over the last few months, I'm sure, as the global economy has ramped back up. Well, not the global economy, but 12 volts. The 12 volt economy surely has done really well, not just in the USA, but globally, and working with all of our distribution out there throughout the world. We're seeing some really amazing stuff. So I think today's topic is really important, and hopefully you guys on the call will benefit from it, and we can all go out and try to use whatever we learned today immediately. So with that, thanks for being with us. I'm Chris Bennett. Matthew Palumbo is going to be going over everything with you guys. So I'll turn it over to him.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris. So as usual, if you guys have questions or comments or anything you want to throw in there, feel free to drop it into the Zoom chat, or if you're joining us on Facebook, type a comment down below. Mr. Bennett will try to keep track of all that stuff and interject as needed. So we're going to talk about selling today. Like Chris said, normally we cover a tech topic or some sort of product, intro, demonstration, walkthrough, whatever you want to call it. And this week I just thought it would be kind of cool to do something different. So, we're in week 23 this week. So we are, making our way through, and we've obviously covered most of the products and a lot of the topics you guys have asked for. So we wanted to do something a little bit different besides, an interview or a product. So again, if you guys have something else that you want to see in these trainings too, please don't be afraid to speak up and, write me on Facebook, send me an email, get a hold of myself or Chris Bennett. We're pretty available guys. So definitely feel free to drop us a line and let us know if there's something we haven't covered that you'd like us to cover or something along those lines. So with that, we are talking about selling mobile audio today. And we're talking about, really selling it effectively and what that takes. And hopefully, even if you're not on this call today, hopefully there will be a lot of opportunity for dealers and guys out there to watch this later on, whether that means they're watching it on Facebook or whatever the case may be. If you're a rep or somebody like that that's on this call, feel free to send guys a link to this if there's a couple of guys that could maybe benefit from this sort of thing. So that's really one of the plans with this too, is even though this will be a smaller audience than our previous trainings, we do want to make this something that, maybe some guys could benefit from watching later on too, because hopefully a lot of you are busy enough to where you don't have time to watch this live. That's great. I hope that you're so busy you can't. So with that, let's get into selling. And I think one of the biggest parts of being a good, mobile audio retailer and salesperson is looking the part. And to me, this is one of the biggest sections of this training. Really when you're talking about what it is that we do and what it is that we sell as an industry, to me, yes, of course, we sell car audio. We sell equipment, we sell gear, we sell whatever you want to call it, products, whatever you want to say. But it's really a lot more than that, right? It's really selling a feeling. It's selling an emotion. It's selling an experience, I think, is the best way to describe that. And when I say selling an experience, it's not just what they're going to experience in their car after you're done with it. It's also the experience of them coming into your shop. I don't know about you, but I have certain places that I like to shop, not because only of what I'm going to get while I'm there, but because the experience of actually going there is kind of fun, or it's impressive, or whatever the word is for the place that you're going to. But I have certain places that I like to go that, definitely I go there not just because of what I'm going to buy. Maybe I could have also bought it online or whatever, but I go there because I enjoy the experience of going to that retailer or whatever the case may be. And to me, that's a two-part deal. That is not only the actual physical place itself, but also the people there. And we'll get into a little bit of all of that stuff. So I think one of the biggest parts of this to start out is looking the part, right? And this means quite a few things, but I think a big part of this is that first impression. What does a consumer, a client, a customer, whatever you want to call them, what do they see when they walk up to or pull up to your building? Does it look clean? Does it look professional? Does it look like somewhere they want to shop, or does it look like somewhere that's going out of business? Does it look like a stereo shop from the 90s still, or the 80s? Or does it look like an updated, modern, retailer? This is an example of a shop I visited down in Florida. I think they do a great job. I mean, that's a beautiful looking shop. The signage is clear. You can also see what it is that they do there. Obviously, this is only part of the building, but you can see right as you're pulling up or driving by even that they do audio tinting, upholstery. That gives you an idea right there. Okay, I know what I'm going to get at least when I go in. But it's a pretty store. It looks like something that is going to do great work, right? Because there are some great retailers out there with amazing technicians that do incredible work. But when you pull up to the shop, it doesn't look that way. And you should never have to have your customers be surprised that the work was so good because it came out of such a poor looking building, right? The work that's done should match what it looks like, the building, the experience. And so that's part of what I want to talk about, is some of the professionalism that goes along with this. And I think making a first impression is huge. This is something that I worked on for years when I was in retail, was just going outside and literally taking a look at the building from the street. My building was situated a weird direction. It was not the way I would have liked it to face, but it is what it is. And I would literally take a walk out to the sidewalk and go stand kind of by the turn lane where you would turn into our parking lot, and try to see what a consumer would see if they're pulling up. And so you start to notice things that you otherwise overlook every day when you pull in. You notice those weeds that are sprouting out of the cracks of the parking lot. You notice the cigarette butts that are sitting out that somebody was lazy and flicked on your ground. You notice the sign that's got light bulbs burnt out. You notice all those old banners on the side of the building that are so sun faded that they're not even the right color anymore. That's the type of stuff that I'm talking about when I talk about first impressions and what they see when they pull up. If that's what they see when they pull up is faded banners and weeds growing out of the parking lot and cigarette butts everywhere, is that a great first experience? Is that a great first impression? I don't think so. You don't expect that when you'd pull up to, say, a Nordstrom or a Best Buy, for that matter, or anything like that. You can say what you want about some of those places otherwise, but I guarantee when you pull up to them, they're not going to have weeds growing out of the parking lot. There's not going to be faded banners and cigarette butts. So just things like that you really need to be mindful of. So when we're talking about the building itself, let's take a look at your store. Have a look at it. And I'm not saying that we have to invest tens, 20s, hundreds of thousands of dollars into renovating your shop. But what I am saying is to step back, have a look, and see what others see. And I know how hard that is to do. I worked in the same building for 15 years, at the same shop for 15 years, drove to that same shop for 15 years. That's a long time to be in one store. And you get blind to a lot of elements of what you see every day because you're just used to seeing them. So it's really easy to overlook that stack of boxes on the floor, or that display that is outdated, or whatever the case may be. But on your screen right now are a couple of beautiful shops that I have been in the last year that really struck me as, wow, this is pretty, and I would send anybody I know into those shops just based off the way they look, not even knowing what type of work they do, because you could send somebody in there and know that it's at least a comfortable environment, right? So when you look at these stores, I mean, the first thing you notice is they're well lit, they look modern, they're clean, and there's not junk everywhere. Even in the both of these photos, you can see there's some stuff on the floor. I know a big goal for a lot of shops is to get everything up off the floor, and with some products, it's tough. You know, it's tough to find a spot to put speaker boxes without putting them on the floor. But at least in this one, you can see they're arranged nicely, they're neatly put in there, and they don't look like they're just stacked up. I think that's a huge part of it. So, you know, have a look at your building. See if, you know, could we buy some paint, and just a coat of paint makes a world of difference. I know my store was really outdated, you know, colors for years and years and years. The building was the colors of the company. The company colors were red, yellow, white, and black. And so the owner had the building painted red, white, yellow, and black. Well, you can imagine how outdated that looked once we were in, you know, 2010. Back in the 90s, that was probably fine. It probably looked like it got some attention. It looked like a stereo shop. But once we hit, you know, the mid 2000s, it was like, okay, it's time for this to go. And just, you know, a simple coat of paint, painting the building, I think it was gray and tan or something like that, something neutral and modern, really made a world of difference. So it's little things like that. Part of this too is if you're having a hard time, or you're having a hard time finding these things and looking around and you go, yeah, I think it looks fine, get somebody else to come in. Ask your significant other, ask your girlfriend, your wife, your friend, somebody that hasn't really been in the shop a lot, maybe they've been in there once or twice. Ask them to come by and ask them to give you their true, unfiltered opinion. And you know, a lot of times wives and girlfriends are really good at being brutally honest about this. They'll tell you what a mess you are pretty quickly most of the time. So ask somebody that you know to come in, have a look at your store, and just quickly jot down 10 things that you could, you know, make better, or 10 things that they didn't like, and maybe a few things that they did like, and then take that list and see if you could accomplish some of those in a weekend, because I'm willing to bet that you probably can. I know for us, one of our big things we'll get to here in a minute was our restroom, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But when you're looking at these stores, I think one of the biggest things is organization. You know, you look at the images you see right now on your screen, and where would you rather shop? You know, would you rather go into a store that is piled to the ceiling with product, you can barely walk through and is just kind of cluttered? Or would you rather shop somewhere that is clean, modern, and you can see everything in a glance, right? People are more comfortable when they can see everything. People are more comfortable when they feel like they can get around the place without having to walk sideways and put their arms flat down by their sides. And I'm not specifically trying to pick on anybody, because, you know, hey, if it works for you, I guess who am I to tell you what to do? But I think a lot of these shops out there could benefit from just a organization, a day of literally taking everything out, spreading it all out in the parking lot or wherever, and, you know, going through everything, finding out what's still viable stock, what needs to go on clearance, and what is flat out garbage, and then reorganizing and going back to it, right? Putting it all back in, reorganizing it all. It's really, really easy to be busy and have inventory come in with UPS or whatever every day, and it just ends up getting kind of piled up and mismanaged. But the thing to think about too is look around your shop, and just like I have on your screen right now, think about where you would be comfortable sending your mom. Would you be comfortable sending your mom into the stereo shop? Or would you be comfortable, you know, sending your whatever, your sister, your girlfriend, whoever? If you didn't work there, would you be comfortable sending them in? And I think, unfortunately, for a lot of guys out there, the answer is no. You know, a lot of the shops are unfortunately not organized. Some of them are kind of dirty. Some of them have garbage piled up and pizza boxes and McDonald's wrappers or whatever. And so you have to really think about it as a whole. And it's not just that the garbage is piling up, it's the experience, right? What does the garbage piling up in the corner say about you and your store? It doesn't just say that, oh, we're too busy and we can't get to that. It says to a consumer or a potential client that, well, if they can't even take the time to empty the trash, how fast are they going to go on my car? Or how much care and effort are they going to put into my vehicle? So I think that that's definitely a part of it. You know, knowing how to look for those little things that you may overlook, or take for granted, but are actually very important to a lot of consumers that come in. And it's little things like that that nobody's going to specifically point out and say hey, why don't you empty the trash? But that stuff sticks in consumers' minds, and it really does, unfortunately impact that impression that you make when they come in. The other part of that I just mentioned a second ago was, when you're trying to be the professional or you're trying to be the expert, make sure that it shows. If you have a specialty in your store, make sure that we show off that specialty. And here's what I mean. You see a couple of images on your screen right now. Obviously the one on top there is showing a motorcycle in a shop. The cool thing about that image is that that's not in the shop. That is in the front of their store. They do a ton of motorcycles, obviously, but any shop out there could say, oh yeah, we do a ton of bikes, Mr. Customer. Your Harley, your 2021 Harley that you've got out there, oh, we can handle that. We do bikes all the time. Okay, you can say that. But if a customer walks into your store and literally on the showroom floor is 3 bikes with mounts for the front wheels that keep the bike upright, and you have that area set up just for bikes, I think that speaks volumes without ever having to say a word. Any customer that walks into that shop is instantly going to go, wow, these guys must do a ton of bikes. And they're going to know that you're the bike experts without you ever having to say a word. So again, when they say whatever, pictures speak 1,000 words, the actual presentation of your store speaks volumes about what you do without you having to say a word. Not only that, but we've all probably been in the situation, I know I have, where we're on the phone when a customer walks in, or we're tied up with another customer when third or fourth customer walks in. And so sometimes, although you may say, hey, I'll be with you in a minute, unfortunately, you don't always have time to, greet them and give them the full tour or whatever the case may be. And if you're anything like me, where you've had somebody walk in, maybe you're on the phone and you can't get off that phone call, or you're tied up with a customer, maybe somebody else walks in, has a quick look around your store, and then leaves before you get a chance to talk to them. That one is tough, because you didn't get a chance to tell them that you're the motorcycle expert. You didn't get a chance to tell them, oh, we do a ton of bikes. That customer may have been walking in looking for somebody local to take care of, his or her Harley or whatever it is. But if they don't see anything, chances are they're going to go, oh, they must not do bikes, and they're going to split. Now, if they walk into that same shop that has a couple of bikes in there and has this area set up, they're going to hang out. They're going to wait, because they're going to wait for you to get off the phone or be done with that other customer, because they can see that you're the motorcycle expert or that it's one of your specialties. Same thing with the security display you see in the bottom corner there. Again, do you have a security display? Probably, most shops do, but is it just a couple of boxes in a glass display case? Is it a functional display on a wall? Is it a little Power Wheels car with a full, security system set up in it? Whatever the case may be, if security or remote start, if you're in one of the regions like we are, where remote start is a big topic, make sure that you have something that shows that you are the security, remote start, whatever it is, expert for your area. If, again, all you're doing is pointing to a box in a display case, you're really not showing them that you're the expert. You're not showing them that this is one of your specialties. You're showing them that you ordered some security and you keep it in stock. That's
I
really
think one
not
of the things that
great.
something I would add is like,
Yeah.
for us as an industry, as people, as retailers, so I think we all have to be self-aware of what we're trying to accomplish, right? So who are you as a company? Are you a retailer? Or are you a technician? Are you an installer? Our business is full of guys who are installers that went out and opened stereo shops, full of it, right? And so they've had to evolve and adapt to become sales guys or business owners or anything like that. But at some point in your career, you have to look at your physical appearance and go, who am I? Let's be self-aware about what we're trying to accomplish. If we're coming up, and I think the awards open today for like our installer of the year and stuff like that. And I was waiting to look at the vendor of the year or stuff. And I was thinking about that. It's like, okay, who are you as a vendor or a retailer or whatever? And we need to put that out there. If you are trying to be in the top retailers in the U.S. right now, my gosh, you should be thinking about what that takes.
Yeah.
If you retail anywhere else in the world, there's shoppers out there that one of the questions on it is there a cigarette butt in the parking lot, right? Like, let alone weeds and cracks, or you know what I mean? Is your glass dirty? I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of retailers spend a lot of money painting. You know, is have your windows been painted in the last 6 months? Or are they all faded? You know, is it vinyl? Is it 5-year-old vinyl? You know, so just let's be self-aware of who we are out there. Try to present ourselves nicer, and know what you're trying to come across as.
I
You know.
agree, and it's one of those things where I think, as a I mean, who doesn't want to make more money, right? We all want to make more money, and part of that is, if you look at the industries around us, everyone is starting to increase their hourly rate. And if we were to take a poll of dealers across the country, I'm sure you're going to see anything from probably 50 or so dollars an hour to upwards of $150 an hour, and everywhere in between. So depending on your region, depending on the type of work you do, obviously that's going to fluctuate. But I think everybody could agree that they would love to raise their hourly rate if they felt they could. Well, part of feeling like you can is having an image and a representation that reflects that. If you're going to raise your hourly rate, or you're going to be one of the slightly more expensive shops in town, then you need to look like it. Okay. When a customer walks in and again, they see cigarette butts outside and dirty windows and a couple of broken down, project cars that belong to employees or whatever it is, that doesn't present that image that, hey, I should be willing to pay a few dollars more to get my car worked on here. It doesn't look like it, right? It needs to look the way that you're trying to, project it as. So that's definitely part of it. And like I said, with these images here, you want to put out that image of what you're the expert on. So if you don't do remote start security and all you're about is sound quality installs, let's say, then you should have a nice sounding demo room, or better yet, demo car, or both, that can show that. It's really hard to sell, and most guys will probably agree with me on this. It's hard to sell high-end equipment or upsell gear or better equipment if they can't hear it. We had revamped one of my sound rooms years ago, and we went from only being able to demo one 4-channel amp and one mono amp with every set of speakers. You could not change the amplifiers, basically, to being able to switch between 8 different 4 channels and 8 different mono amps. Suddenly, amplifier sales go through the roof. Well, that's because we could demo the better amplifiers. When you tell somebody this one sounds better than that one, and the price difference is blank, they've got to take your word for it. And although you may be the professional in the area, you may be the best guy around at doing what you do, they still have to take your word for it. And demos speak volumes. Um, in a lot of these retail spaces too, everybody is getting away from sound rooms. I think that's fine. A lot of guys are going to freestanding displays. I think freestanding works great. They look really good. But I think the biggest thing is making sure that these displays sound good, right? Looks are one thing, but it needs to sound good. We can't show people stuff that doesn't sound good. We are trying to sell that experience of a better sounding system. We're trying to sell that experience of a better sounding car or boat or side by side or whatever it is. You had better be able to demo it. That's my biggest thing. I love displays. I love displays that sound good. I always enjoyed having stuff that I could show people because it's the best closer you could have. So we'll get into more of that stuff in a second. But one of the other things I want to talk to you guys about, I think a lot of you are going to laugh and think this is silly, but think about your bathroom. I know this sounds odd, but seriously, I don't care how pretty your store is and how great your parking lot looks and how pretty your painted building is and your shop is clean and spotless. If your bathroom is gross, you're getting points deducted in the back of their mind, whether they say anything about it or not. If your bathroom has car magazines, or not car magazines, but girly magazines or posters that are inappropriate or whatever the case may be, come on, guys, get with the times. That stuff has gone out the door 10 years ago. In your back bathroom where it's employees only, great, have at it. But in the front where a customer is going to actually use that restroom, it needs to be clean. It needs to be spotless, basically, and it needs to be good for everybody. The pictures you see on your screen right now are before and after of the bathroom at my old shop. So on the right, you can see we had some posters in there, ugly lighting, some nasty, stuff in there, just not pretty. And we decided that we were going to flip it in a day. So we painted the walls, we put a new light fixture, we put a nicer mirror, we bought a new trash can, we got rid of the big black cabinet you can see in the corner that used to have like cleaning supplies and extra toilet paper and stuff in there. We got rid of all that, found a different spot to store that stuff, and just bought a nice little white cabinet that held the extra teepee and things like that. And we used to get compliments every single day from people that would use the bathroom and go, wow, you guys have a really nice restroom, especially for a shop full of guys. That was usually their exact quote, was for a shop full of guys, you have a really clean, nice bathroom. And not to say that it makes a bigger difference to men than women, but you will notice that a lot of the women that will use your restroom will especially appreciate it, because unfortunately, they've become used to when they get their oil changed or they go to the mechanic or they go to any place that works on cars, they're almost kind of used to seeing a gross bathroom. That's horrible, okay? You want them to come out of there and go, wow, if their bathroom's that clean, they must be, you know, really clean guys that are going to do really clean work, and it just reflects on your whole shop's personality. Okay, so that's one of those things where, again, I think it's kind of funny, and a lot of guys are going to think it's kind of silly, but trust me, spend $100 and something on a new mirror and a new light fixture and some paint, and clean the place up. Spend a few hours really deep cleaning it, and you know, wait for all the compliments from customers that come in. It really does make a huge difference, you guys.
Yeah, both Matthew and myself were both retailers for more than 10 years. So we understand and know exactly what you guys are going through. If I was still a retailer and knowing what I know today, I would try to befriend another 5 other fellow retailers out there and have competitions. Hey, let's see who has the nicest bathroom, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see who, you know, can, you know, just interact with other retailers so that you guys can encourage each other to make those little differences as an industry. Yeah. Not just as yourself as a retailer, but encourage others to do the same kind of stuff, guys.
No, and it reflects well on everybody. If all of you, let's say, like Chris is saying, if all of you go, hey, let's friendly competition here. Let's see who can make their bathroom the nicest, which is kind of a funny, silly competition. But literally, you know, say, hey, let's all set a $200 budget and let's see how nice we can make our bathrooms, and then take a picture and vote or whatever. You know, the loser buys everybody dinner or whatever the case may be. It reflects well on all of you, because at the end of the day, you all have a better bathroom, right? Everybody wins. It's just like when they say, you know, a new stereo shop moves into town, is it hurting you or helping you? Chances are it's actually helping you, because whatever advertising they're running also works for you, because people don't just think of that shop, they think of all the stereo shops. They think of that industry when they see those advertisements. So that's just a little side note. But, you know, like Chris said, befriending some other shops in the area and you know, having that rapport with them works wonders. I used to have a shop down the street that we were buddy with, and it was great. If I was out of a dash kit, or we ran out of a Toyota wiring harness, or whatever the case may be, I could run down a mile down the street, buy it for, you know, in between cost and retail. We would sell them to each other at somewhere in between and help each other out. You know, is that customer going to lose? Am I going to lose that customer by not having that harness? Maybe. Is he going to go down there and buy it though? Probably not, right? So why don't we all just keep our customers that we already have coming in? Let's not pretend that by me selling you a $5 wiring harness that I'm somehow, you know, helping you to get this new customer. The guy's already in their store, okay? He's already decided to go with them. You're just helping them out by, you know, selling them a harness. And trust me, when you need the favor returned, you'll be really glad that you have a buddy a mile or two down the street or wherever your closest shop is. It definitely looks good for you. One other thing that I would talk about on that same kind of topic is with the shops and, you know, what people see, the shop side of things, the install bay, let's call it, or the shop, whatever you want to call it, needs to be just as clean as the front. And this is something that I think more shops struggle with than probably anything else, is how clean is your shop? Would you actually take a customer back there? I had some polls made up for today. Well, we've got 10 participants, so we can do that. So let's see here. Let's have a look at this, and I'm just going to throw a poll out there to you guys that are in here. So, you know, most shops will say, well, we don't allow customers in the bay. And I've always found the reason to be kind of funny. Most shops will say, you know, we don't we don't allow customers in the shop because of liability or insurance reasons or whatever the reason is. And I used to say the same thing. The truth of the matter was I didn't want customers in the shop because I was embarrassed of it. Okay. I didn't want somebody back there because I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't think it was presentable enough to take a customer back there. And I think a lot of you could probably agree, at least at some point in your career. Now, we have seen a shift in the last 5 years or so, maybe 10 years, where more and more shops are getting their act together. And I think this could not be more important than now. With today's vehicles, we are now presenting ourselves as saying, hey, you can't work on your car today like you did 30 years ago. 20 or 30 years ago, sure, a stereo swap was not that hard, right? Your average car was not that difficult. Even for a lot of the guys that come into your shop, I'm sure you guys hear this all the time. I know I used to, and that was, when I was fill in the blank, I used to do all my own stereos. Nowadays, the cars are just too difficult, or I don't want to mess up this new car I got, or whatever the case may be. You're going to hear that more and more because the cars are obviously getting more integrated. The screens are getting bigger. The dashes are getting more difficult or more integrated. And more customers are going to say, I don't want to work on this thing. If we are going to go ahead and say, you need to bring this to us because we're the professionals, then the shop needs to reflect that. And my favorite answer in this poll is the yes, we make it a point to tour the shop to close the deal. That should be part of your close. If you are selling a system and it's anything more than just basic work, if it's a deck and a couple of speakers, okay, maybe they don't care about seeing the shop or whatever. But when a customer is bringing in a car, whether it's a high value car or not, this doesn't just have to be for your Corvette, Ferrari customers. But if this guy really loves his 89 Honda Accord and it's his favorite car and he bought it when it was brand new and it's in immaculate condition, he would love to see a tour of your shop and see that his baby is going to be taken care of in this nice shop with clean floors and nice toolboxes and not junk everywhere. All shops have leftover parts. All shops have leftover stuff. We all have, parts that are taken off of cars. We all have old dashes laying around or whatever. You got to find a way to conceal or get rid of or organize that stuff. Big cabinets with closing doors, fine. At least you could line a wall with those and you could hide some of this stuff. But to me, you really need to be able to take a customer in the back and show them, practically taking them by the hand and show them, hey, look, here's why we say we're the professionals. We've not only invested in the tools and the workspace to do this job correctly, but we also have invested ourselves in training and knowledge and blah, 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 fill in the blanks. But you really do need to be able to take somebody back there and show them, hey, I know we're talking about $6,000 here to do this big custom job in your car. Here's where we're going to do the work. Here's where we break things down. You guys get the idea. So on the poll, I'll end the poll here and tell you the results. The number one result was actually, yes, we make it a point to tour the shop to close the deal. That's awesome. I love to see that. A couple of you did answer no because our shop is a mess and we're embarrassed. I feel you. I was in that same boat for a while. So it's definitely something that you should work on. I know sometimes it's hard to get the technicians on board with that. Maybe you have a tech that's stubborn about it or something like that. But one way or the other, guys, it needs to happen. Whether it's you forcing it to happen or you guys all get on the same page or whatever, you got to have a clean shop in today's market if you want to be successful, at least in my opinion. So on the topic of the shop, the other thing that I wanted to talk about today was having the right tools for the job. This is something we talk about a lot since we make some really cool tools that are great for doing all sorts of testing and measurement in car audio and other industries. But excuse me, one of those tools is the laptop. And that's the one that we talk about a lot because a lot of guys say that they don't want to buy a laptop for the shop. The owner won't buy a laptop or whatever the case may be. There is truly no excuse anymore for a tech to not have access to a laptop. Technicians should not be coming up front every hour to pull info from a wiring database. They should not be having to come up front and use a computer and a printer to print out a direct text sheet or an all data sheet or whatever service you use. We should have tablets and laptops or one or the other in the shop. And truthfully, every tech should have their own. Whether the shop buys it or the tech buys it, I don't care who buys it. every tech should really probably have their own laptop. And I say laptop over tablet for two reasons. A, you can get a pretty decent laptop for not a lot of money these days. And B, there's certain things a tablet just can't do still, even with the really cool tablets that are out today. And you can see on your screen there, I took that picture maybe a month or so ago at Target, and it's kind of hard to see, but that laptop is $219. I would be willing to bet that just about everybody in this training, or anybody that watches this training for that matter, has probably spent more than $220 on one single tool. You know, I'm sure your drill probably costs more than 220 bucks. Your router probably costs more than that. I know some guys that spend that on a single manual screwdriver off of the tool truck. You know, $220 is not a lot of money, and that is a Windows laptop that runs Windows. It's not a netbook. It's not a Chromebook or anything like that. That would definitely run pretty much everything you'd need to do in today's shop. So that's one of those tools that I think everybody needs. Chris was also mentioning earlier, you know, being able to go out to a customer's car and identify problems or show them why their car sounds the way it does. So at Audio Control, we have several different ways for you to do that, right? We have the DMRTA Pro Kit. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner. Excuse me. The Pro Kit obviously comes with everything. This is a full-fledged tuning and measurement kit. This is your RTA, this is your oscilloscope, this is everything that you'd want to do tuning and testing and measurements in that vehicle. You could absolutely take that out to a customer's car on battery power with a smartphone or tablet and do a quick measurement in a customer's car and be able to identify what's going on in that vehicle. So when they say, hey, I don't like the way it sounds, and you know, hopefully you're trying to get out of them, well, what is it that you don't like? We don't like that there's not enough bass, or there's not enough mid-range, not enough treble. What is it that it's lacking? But a lot of times, most of your consumers, most of your clients that come in don't really know how to articulate what it is that's wrong with that car. And if you've ever dealt with this before, like I have, a lot of times they'll tell you what they think is wrong with it. And then unfortunately, you end up selling them the wrong solution for what they actually needed. A prime example is I would have customers come in sometimes and tell me, hey, I need new speakers. And unfortunately, I was in a hurry. I'll admit I was wrong. I didn't go out to the car. I sold them some speakers. We installed the speakers. And unfortunately, the problem persists. Maybe the problem was really that there was just a rattle in the door panel. Maybe the problem was that the factory amplifier is bad. Maybe the problem was, you know, whatever, a bad auxiliary input jack where only one side of the car works. I can't tell you how many bad aux-in jacks cause one side of the vehicle to not play, and the consumer comes in and tells me that all the speakers down one side of the car are bad. Unfortunately, if you sell them speakers, you didn't fix their problem. Now, if they tell you that you didn't fix their problem, now you at least have an opportunity to really get to the bottom of it and solve it. But unfortunately, there is a percentage of consumers that will not come back in. They will pay their bill, go home, and be unhappy. And they will tell people that, you know, I spent $300, $400, $500, whatever it was, and they didn't fix my problem. They may never come back. They may tell their friends that didn't fix their problem. It's not really your fault because you sold them what they asked for, but at the same point, it is your fault for not really finding out what that consumer needed and getting to the bottom of it. And that kind of brings us to some of the other things that we're talking about here in a minute. But before we move on, I want to talk about the SA microphones as well. We talked about these recently in one of our trainings, and these are great if you're going to have a more advanced testing and tuning setup in the back. Maybe you're going to have a tuning cart or a measurement cart with a DMRTA mounted to it. You don't want that taken out to the front. The SA microphones would be great for your more advanced sales guys that could literally plug this into their iPhone or a tablet, take it out to a customer's car and do a quick reading on that car and, you know, show the consumer why it sounds the way it does or what it actually looks like on an RTA. Now, I'm not expecting you to school every consumer on what an RTA is, what it is that they're looking at, but you could literally go out, do a 30-second measurement and show them on a screen, oh, I can see you have really weak mid-bass, and I can see that you have way too much sub-bass, or whatever the case may be. Now, again, they don't need to really know what that RTA is or what it does, but they are going to be impressed that you're the professional, you brought a tool out to their car, and, well, A, you went out to their car at all, but B, you went out and brought a tool out there and did a quick measurement for free and showed them what was wrong. Chances are now when you go back into the store to show them what it is that you are suggesting they buy to fix the problem they came in with, they're going to believe you. Okay. Not just because you're saying so, but because, well, hey, this guy must be a professional. He came out with tools to my car. So on that topic, I want to talk about looking like a professional. And when you're telling clients that you're the professional, your tools need to tell the same story. So this goes along with that DMRTA, the SAIOS microphones, all of that type of stuff. These are some examples on your screen right now of just some basic testing and tuning carts. You can see some of these are more detailed than others. Some of them are more elaborate than others. I've seen some with laser etched logos and all sorts of cool stuff. And others look like you grabbed a cart from your high school cafeteria, whatever. But having something like this really does make you look like the professional. And when you're telling your clients that, you need to look the part. The other side of that is that chances are most of your consumers have probably shopped for a stereo at some point in their lives, right? Especially if they're older than 30 years old, chances are they probably shopped for a car stereo before. So the cool part with that is that you have a chance to really make a huge impression on that consumer, because I can guarantee you that when they came in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was, they did not have a guy with a tuning cart set up their stereo. They did not have a guy with an RTA come out to their car and show them why it didn't sound the way that they thought it should, or whatever the case may be. Having something like this, allowing a consumer to see it in your shop, or showing them, hey, this is what we're going to use to set up and tune your equipment. We're not just going to set this up by ear. I don't know what everybody else in town is doing, but at our shop, we are going to use this equipment, and we've been, trained on how to use this, or whatever you want to say. We have been trained on this, and we are going to use this to set up your equipment and get the most out of it. And that's the key, because when you're selling car audio and you're selling this experience of a better sounding system, we need to make sure, not just personally, but as an industry really, that when we promise that we're going to make their car sound better, we need to deliver on that promise. So if you're claiming that we're going to make your car sound better, or hey, if you buy X, Y, and Z, it's going to sound great, you need to make sure that at the end of that, it sounds great, right? We want to make sure that they're happy with it. And having something like this set up for them, not only for your techs to do their job, but for the consumer to be able to see that you have these tools is definitely key to that.
One thing that I definitely need to add, and I posted
Yep.
something about this about a week ago, was if we're selling equipment and doing all this stuff, guys, we need to be selling what the customer wants. If
I
we're not
love the way
selling
you
what the
worded that.
customer wants, we're not listening to our customer. I get so sick and tired of guys that do stuff. I mean, if somebody's not coming to me for a competition level car, then I need to know dang well what they want out of their system.
Yep.
I've gone to shops. One of my best stories is a couple years ago, I got a call back. It was like the third time the guy came back to the store. It had a DM processor in it. And so I just go down there and I sit in the car. It was before the DMRTA just came out. I had an SA 4100, and I sat in there. I logged my laptop in with the customer in the driver's seat and said, dude, what is it you don't like? And we just started playing with it. And perception is reality to consumers, you guys.
Yep.
Like he wanted his system to sound not even close to how I would want a system to sound, how all of us would want that system to sound. But his perception of the way it sounded after he sat in, he got a chance to listen to a couple songs after every adjustment, yeah, it took time, but he was paying for that time. He was paying for an hour tune time. And my gosh, that car did not sound good to me at all, but that dude loved it. And so all the time we get hung up on selling a customer what we want to sell them, how we want it to sound, but let's pay attention to what they're looking for, So
No,
amongst
that's
all
a
the
great
physical
point.
stuff, like control the sale, control, the outcome to deliver for your customer. It's one of the simplest things, but we overthink tuning and
Yep.
a lot of stuff a lot of times when we can deliver perfection to our customers without us having to work as much. So it all has to do in the selling process, listening up front. So There's my 2 cents on that.
Oh, that's a perfect segue too, because it brings me exactly into this next slide. And that is that we should all be listening carefully. And when I say listening to every customer, I mean exactly what Chris was just talking about. We should not automatically assume anything, really. But like Chris said, I think unfortunately a lot of times we get too hung up on thinking of what we would do to this car, or what would be perfect for this car, or what we would put in it, or what we would like it to sound like. I've heard plenty of cars that were incredibly expensive, had super high-end gear and an incredible install, and I didn't care for the way it sounded at all. Okay, because like Chris said, perception is reality. That's what's important. What they want in that system is what counts. If they want two 15s and no door speakers whatsoever, then you know what? That's what they should get. If that's what they actually truly want, then satisfying that customer may be selling them what they asked for. Obviously, I really think you should listen to every customer and really try to find out. Like I said before, you don't want to sell them the wrong solution. You really need to find out what it is that they're after. Don't just take what they say when they walk in the door. Them walking in the door and saying, I need new speakers, or I'm looking for a subwoofer, or whatever the case may be, they may actually be looking for what it is that they just asked for, but they may not know that they actually need blank. And so that's where you come in. That's your job. You need to figure out what it is that they truly need to make them happy in that vehicle. And a lot of times they don't know what they need. I would say 9 times out of 10, they don't know what they need. That's for you to find out. And part of that is not only listening to every customer, but listening to every vehicle. Now, this has been preached a million times over, but I think it's important to touch on it again, because I know for myself as a sales guy, I was a tech for 7 or 8 years and then a sales guy for the other 7 or 8 years. You get lazy, you get complacent. You go through one of these trainings, you go, you know what, he's right. I should be going out to every single car. I'm going to go out to every single car. And you do it for a while. But unfortunately, you get busy, or it's raining outside, or you got 10 customers in the store, whatever the case may be. And sometimes we just don't take the time to go out to every car. And you really, really need to, because those mistakes are costly, right? They cost you reputation, they cost your customer money, they can cost you a lot of time if you have to undo or redo something because you didn't fully understand what they wanted, or they couldn't articulate what they really wanted. So really going out and listening to every vehicle is key. And part of listening to every vehicle is assessing the vehicle and its contents. Now, this one's been preached a million times too, but this is really your opportunity to suggest the right stuff. I can't tell you how many dash cams I sold by going out to a vehicle, sitting in it for an audio consultation, and realizing that they had a little Uber sticker or a Lyft sticker up in the corner of their windshield. Well, hey, wouldn't it be great if you had a dash cam? You could keep an eye on the passengers and keep an eye on the road and blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you how many dash cams I sold just from seeing that little sticker. How many times do you look in a vehicle and see car seats and you can suggest a drop-down monitor for the kids in the back, or nowadays maybe a tablet holder for the back of the headrest would be more appropriate, whatever. But this is your opportunity to go have a look. If you go to the back of that car and it's filled full of stuff, chances are they're not going to be okay with a big, huge sub box, okay? So this is your time to be, a little bit intuitive and go have a look at that and figure it out. Don't go in and suggest them a huge dual 12 ported box in a car that already has golf clubs in the back, okay? Chances are they're going to want to still be able to haul those golf clubs. So that's something that you're going to need to talk about. And this needs to happen every time. Like I said, I'm guilty of it, just like many of us are. It's really easy to get complacent. It's really, really easy to get a little bit lazy and stop doing this. And, it usually doesn't bite you the first time you don't do it, but it will bite you. It's bitten most of us if we've been doing this a while. So definitely keep that in mind. But I think the biggest part of sales, in my opinion, is listening. As sales guys, we have a tendency to talk too much. We have a tendency to, you do want to lead the conversation, and you do want to, lead the sale and take charge of the sale, like Chris was saying, but you also need to listen. Sales guys have a habit of getting a little bit nervous, and so they talk too much. They keep going. They keep talking about features and features and features, or this, that, and the other. And really what you kind of need to do is shut up a little bit and wait for the customer to talk. Wait for them to ask more questions. and wait to really find out what it is and get to the root of what it is that they really want and what it is that they're really, really looking for. You know, I agree. Brett brought up, how much are you thinking of spending? That should never be a question. I actually have heard this, you know, worded several different ways. How much are you thinking of spending? What was your budget? Did you have a budget in mind? You never really want to ask that question. We want to go and do, you know, if you're a good, better, best type seller, you know, there's several different ways to do the sales process. But it is really something that you don't want to ask, in my opinion, anyway. The social media presence is another good point that Aubrey had brought up. You know, showing them that, you know, some of the cool stuff that you do, showing them some before and afters, showing them some of the accessories that they may not know that you even did. You know, there's a lot of options that a lot of us install that customers have no idea. Maybe you do leather, maybe you do sunroofs, maybe you do cruise controls or remote starts. And although to us, those are everyday add-on things, your customer may not know that that stuff exists, or they may not just know that you do it. At my shop, we did leather conversions as well, but it wasn't something we were known for. But if you see a car come in that's a nice car, but maybe the cloth seats are all stained and beyond repair, what a great time to suggest, hey, did you know that we do leather? And you don't even have to get into pricing right then and there, but you just planted the seed at least that you guys do leather. So maybe in a year or so, when they decide that they want to upgrade that car or whatever, they're going to come back and see you because they remember you guys are the ones that do leather. So it's one of those little things where you really need to plant the seed. The other thing is having,
Matthew,
yeah.
I'm gonna talk about the social media aspect of,
Let's do
business today versus, you know, even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
Oh, for sure.
Our customers today, by the time they come through your store, they're so much more educated than they ever have been, not only on just what they're looking for, but what they have. So that today, it's more important to listen to every customer. More of your customers know that they need sound dampening than they've ever known before. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when I was a retailer, it was like, you know, they knew one sound dampening brand and they knew one cable brand. It was, you know, it was Dynamat and Monster Cable.
Yep,
you know?
I was just going to say that.
I didn't sell either one of them, but I sold sound deadening. They knew that back then, if they came in and asked for it, sure, you're going to get it. I'm going to give you sound deadening, you know?
Yeah.
Today's customer is so much more educated. The work is partially done by the time they walk in. You know, if I was a retailer today, I would be thinking, you know, somebody, by the time they come through my door, that sell is halfway done. I mean, maybe even more so. So be focused on listening to them. They're already there. They're there to talk to you about something, you know? So be open to having those conversations. And when you write up, you know, a quote or whatever it is, or you start plotting the system, don't over talk about that. A lot of stuff. Assume the sell, put it in there, and most of the time they're going to be like, oh yeah, I knew I needed that, but maybe it was escaping my mind, you know? So social media is huge, you guys, and it is the portion of our business today that we didn't have 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago that makes your selling process so much easier by the time the customer walks in.
Yeah, the other thing that social media really does for us that a lot of guys overlook is it familiarizes you with the customer. You have never met this person before, but because they've maybe been to your Instagram page, your YouTube, your Facebook, whatever, don't just take pictures of cars. Make sure that at least sometimes there's an employee in there, or if you're doing video content more than just pictures, make sure that occasionally the person speaking is on camera. Because now after they've seen a few clips, a few pictures, a few videos, a few posts, whatever, they feel like they know you a little bit. You know, just like when you meet somebody at one of our industry events and you've never actually met them before, but you've seen them on Instagram, you've seen them on Facebook, you've seen their YouTube videos, maybe you've talked to them on a forum or something like that. You feel like you know them a little bit, even though you've never met them before. Consumers or customers have that exact same reaction. When they've seen you talk about remote start 5 times and they've seen you post a quick video of you starting a car and this and that, when they come in, they're gonna go, oh, hey Matt, yeah, I saw you on those videos online, or whatever the case may be. And that little bit of icebreaker is a huge difference when you're talking about retail and customers coming in. I did see a couple of good points in the chat here as well. And one of those was the never judging a customer by the way they look. You know, for me, I was in a rural area. My shop was not in a major metropolitan area. And we had a lot of fields and farming and a lot of agriculture around us. And some of my biggest spenders were guys that in other areas they may judge and not give them a second look or not give them the time of day. You know, a lot of those farmers were multi-millionaires and came in covered in dirt and cow poop and whatever, and they spent tons of money. You know, money was not a big deal to them, and they never griped about price. They never beat me up on price. But it would be really, really easy to look at that guy and go, oh man, he's covered in dirt, he's wearing overalls, he doesn't look like he has any money. You know, don't ever judge a book by its cover. Definitely treat those everybody the same when they come in, because a lot of times you will be surprised. Using the right parts is another big part of sales. And this one, to me, took me a long time to grasp, because what do we hear preached all the time? All the time we hear, do it today, do it today, do it today. Get the job in the bay, get the car taken apart, and do it today. And I am definitely a proponent of that if you have the parts. I used to get caught up more than once in, hey, we're going to do this job. The guy gave me the go ahead. I've got his keys. We have the time on the books or the time available. Let's get it done. And then your technician comes to you and says, well, we don't have this, or we don't have that, or this and that. And unfortunately, my response sometimes would be, well, can we make it work? Unfortunately, making it work is usually not what you want to end up doing, because in the long run, it's going to end up costing you more time, more money, more energy, and you're going to have probably a pissed off technician at the end of the day. So make sure that we're using the right parts. I would say, you know, a good percentage of time where on the Facebook stuff, you know, guys will post something and ask about a certain product. Should I be using this? Should I be using that? How do I make this product work in this car? And the true answer for a lot of those questions is they shouldn't be making that product work in that car. They should just get the right product in the first hand, right? You know, a lot of times the answer is like, well, yeah, you could do it, but really if you just had a preamp solution, it would make life so much easier, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Today, we have so many solutions available to us, guys, so many different things that can work in so many different cars, even the weird cars, the exotic cars, the high-end cars that previously there weren't solutions for. Nowadays, there are. We have all these great companies like Audio Control, like PAC, like Metra, like Nav TV that have all these great solutions for these cars that allow us to put and integrate equipment into them easier than probably ever before. So don't be scared off by some of those cars. Don't ever be scared off by any car. That's something that I also had to learn early on. You know, when I was a young technician and I got my first couple of higher end vehicles, man, I was terrified working on a Mercedes, working on a you know, whatever it was, even a BMW or Mercedes at the time was like scary to me. And then after a while, you know, you just get used to them and they're all just cars. If you talk to guys that work on Lamborghinis and Ferraris all day, they'll tell you it's just like working on anything else. It's just a little bit different, you know. The Lamborghini guys, the ones that work on them all the time, usually will tell you it's like working on a Volkswagen. You know, depending on what the car is, there's some other vehicle that it's similar to, because they're usually built on a different platform, right? So, or built off of a platform, based on a platform. So don't ever be scared off by a car, but also don't be scared to charge a little bit more, or you know, save a little bit more time on the books for those cars, because they are sometimes delicate or sometimes going to require a little extra time. But having the right parts in stock or having the right parts available to you is key. Knowing what those parts are, I think, is the bigger challenge of this. And here's what I mean by that. Knowing what's in your stock room, obviously this is important. I tried to make it a habit, and I got pretty good at it, of walking my stock room every single day. Every morning I went into the stock room, I took a quick look around, made sure I knew what was in stock. And that way, when that customer did come in and say, hey man, I'm going on a road trip, I need speakers installed right now. What do you have that'll fit that I can get done today? Because sometimes that's the key. Sometimes the guy needs it today. Well, then you know what? You should get it done today, right? If he's willing to wait, and maybe you know of something that would be better, that would be special order, and it would fit better and sound better and work better, hey, great. Hey, I have this option. I can special order them for you. You know, what do you think? But if he says, no, man, it's got to happen today, then you better know in the back of your mind what you have. because there's nothing worse than making 5 trips to the stock room to go check on every speaker that they asked about. Try to keep that in the back of your mind. I know for some of you, if you have huge stock rooms or big inventory levels, that's going to be tough. But most of us, I feel like, run a little bit leaner and meaner than maybe we did years ago. It should be fairly easy for you to at least get a visual snapshot in your mind of, hey, here's what I have in stock, more or less. That way, at least you know what you're out of or what you have too many of, so maybe you can even suggest that or whatever the case may be. But the other one is, you should know what's available from all vendors, even stuff that you don't stock or don't sell. And this one to me is key. I can't tell you how many cars or how many jobs I should say, I booked because I knew of a product out there that would accomplish what the customer really wanted. And maybe they had even been told that it couldn't be done. They stopped at another shop. They got told, you know what, there's no solution for that. What the guy meant to say was that he didn't have that solution in stock, or he didn't sell that solution, or he didn't know of a solution for that car. But if there was anything I was really good at, anything I really prided myself on, it was knowing what's out there. And when I say what's out there, it's exactly what I have on your screen. Even stuff that you don't sell or don't normally stock or whatever, you need to know what's out there, because just because you can't get it or you don't have it in stock doesn't mean that you maybe can't get it, right? You may be able to get it. Maybe there's a distributor that has it or something else, or maybe there's whatever, there's an avenue for you to get that product and close the sale. But knowing what's out there and knowing what's available in the market is huge, because the last thing you want to do is tell that customer, hey, there's no solution for your car. Now, again, what you meant to say was that you don't have a solution for their car, because what you don't want them to do is go home, do some research, and find out that there is indeed a solution, you just didn't know about it. Now, obviously, we can't know about every single product and every single brand and every single thing that's out there, but you can get pretty good. Keeping up on what everybody's doing, keeping up on what's out there makes a huge difference. Obviously, trade shows and all those things were pretty key to knowing that side of things. And one of these days, we'll get back to those at some point. But even so, spending a little bit of time researching stuff online, checking out everybody's website, keeping up with the industry magazines and all that stuff is a great way to try to keep up on what's available. And I can't stress this one enough. Like I said, I couldn't tell you how many deals I closed just knowing of something that was out there, or something that was available, or something that I could special order, or maybe even call one of my reps and get, or whatever the case may be. So I think that one's key. Let's also talk about audio control, right? We're doing the training. Let's talk a little bit about selling us. So when you're selling audio control, there's some things that I want everybody to keep in mind, and there's some really good key points that can help you to close some deals and help you when you're talking to customers. And this doesn't just apply to audio control, but some of this is a little bit more specific. So part of that is, I think when selling, it's always great to have a story to tell, right? If all you do is point at a product and suggest it because, hey, this will work in your car and it's blah, blah, blah price, yeah, okay, I guess. But when a customer has a choice to make, when there's 2 or 3 options for their vehicle, which one are they going to choose? Well, if you give them no other incentive or no other reason, they're going to choose based off of price, right? Because why wouldn't you? If you give me 3 choices and you don't really give me a reason why or what the difference is, I'm probably just going to pick whichever one's least expensive, right? Most of us would. So you really want to make sure you kind of have a story to tell, especially when we're talking about some of the products and items out there that are a little bit higher priced. When you're getting into higher end amplifiers or DSPs, or higher end can mean a lot of things. To some people, that's anything over a couple $100. To some people, that's anything over a couple $1,000. So you need to kind of feel that out. But I really think having a story to tell to go along with that is important. So when you're talking about audio control products, there's a lot of things that we can say. We can talk about the 5-year warranty. That's definitely something that you can bring up. And there's a lot of people that don't know this. Hell, I even run into dealers and installers sometimes that didn't know the products they've been installing for years had a 5-year warranty on them. This is key. This is something that we obviously talk about quite a bit. Now, is it something that you absolutely have to bring up to every customer? No. This is something that's really more for you dealers to make sure that you're taken care of and that we can take care of you. And in turn, you can take care of your customer. That's really what the 5-year warranty is all about. It's not so that you can show every customer, hey, this thing has a 5-year warranty on it. That means you get it replaced for 5 years. That's not what we're suggesting. What we're suggesting is you can know that you are going to be backed up by us. So we're going to take care of you, and that way you can sell it with confidence. But you also have that great story to tell with Audio Control. Being a US manufacturer, being a company that's based here in the greater Seattle area in Washington State, being somebody that actually employs people to build these products here in the US, there is really no other companies that you can say that about, or at least not many these days in the car audio industry. I don't know of really hardly any that you can say that same story about, especially not any that have been around for as long as we have. 42, 43 plus years in business is a long time. And you're going to have a lot of customers that really think that's pretty cool, and it may help to kind of seal the deal. You may have some that don't care. They could care less. They just are shopping based off price. Okay, fine. But if we are talking about, the difference between a couple of products, you have one that has a 1-year warranty and is made in China, and you have one that has a longer warranty and is made in the US by a US company. Which one are they going to choose? Chances are they're going to choose ours, right? Also with audio control stuff for you sales guys and techs and stuff that are out there, you just have to know the product and sales support side of it. And what I mean by that is we really back up everything that we do. So we have our knowledge base online. We do these trainings once a week. We have a trainer that's employed by the company just to help out dealers and reps. That's my sole purpose, right? We have some really awesome support here. Not only that, but you can call into Audio Control and get a real human being. That's pretty cool. That's something that you need to keep in the back of your mind as a sales guy is, hey, if I get into trouble on this car and I sell the audio control piece, I know I'm going to have somebody to talk to. If I sell product X, I'm probably not going to be able to get a hold of anybody, right? That's something to take into consideration. Tech support's the same way. We have pretty awesome tech support. We have a whole team of guys employed here in the building. They're not offshore. They're not in some other country. They're not unavailable. You don't get a busy tone every time you call them. Like I said, I was a tech for years. I dealt with all that stuff. There is nothing more frustrating than being stranded with a product. You were told it was going to work. The application guide said it was going to work, and then it didn't, and you can't get a hold of anybody to even answer the phone, let alone provide tech support. That's a horrible position to be in. And unfortunately, most of us have experienced it with one brand or another. The other thing with Audio Control is we're pretty open and accessible. Mr. Bennett and myself are both super accessible. We hand out our email address frequently. Most of us, everybody here has their cell phone numbers on their business cards. We're very, very accessible via our Facebook pages as well. We have several Facebook pages. Obviously, a lot of you know about that since you saw it. That's where you saw this training come up, was in those groups. But there aren't too many other brands that are as accessible as we are, as far as being able to just pick up the phone, get a hold of somebody, shoot a text, whatever, and get a quick answer. We're really pretty proud of that. So that's something that's a little bit different about us that just kind of keep in the back of your mind when you're selling.